Stand by on the floor. News is next. Drop page 10. Check phase on tape 8.
Stand by to dissolve it off and ready 3. Ready light cue.
The North Phoenix Baptist Church signed on the air today on UHF Channel 39 with their first live worship service. The low-powered station will broadcast 24 hours a day and serve a viewing audience within a 10-mile radius.
We'll be reading the Word of God. We'll be singing the praises of God.
Actually, North Phoenix Baptist Church has had somewhat of a TV ministry for 18 years, broadcasting an hour-long worship service every Sunday on KPHO.
Stand by to a little wider.
But now the church plans to broaden its evangelical ministry as part of the American Christian Television System out of Fort Worth, Texas. So the Phoenix-based service will be seen nationwide. But this comes at a time when nationwide TV ministries are facing their most crucial hour in the wake of the PTL scandal. Has this had an impact on local ministries?
The only repercussions we've felt is that people have an added respect for and confidence in their local church, where it should have been all the time.
Jackson says through Channel 39, his church intends to share the Word of God with Phoenix and not solicit money for doing it. Only 25% of Channel 39's programming will be religious. The rest will be family-oriented.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity. You know, some of the things we see on TV these days just aren't the kind of things we want our children to see, and I think it's a neat opportunity to put some quality programming on TV.
I think it is a fabulous opportunity to reach people and to offer the kinds of programming that we would like our families to see and grow in. I think it's fantastic.
We like to say that Channel 39 will be a channel Arizona families can trust. Not that Channel 12 isn't.
Minerva Perez, Channel 12 News.
Annette comes and she picks us up and she takes us to school.
Sometimes Annette Pock takes 8 children on the long drive from the Four Drag Ranch, 4 of her own, including 2 doing high school correspondence, and 4 more from the Land family. With only 10 elementary students in the whole school, some classes could seem a little small.
How many other second graders are there here in Eagle Creek School?
I'm the only second grader. Sometimes it makes me feel lonely. Sometimes it makes me feel special.
You see, sometimes Freddie gets to have class with the 3rd grade, sometimes with the 1st grade, and a class may only have 2 students, like Bobby and Danny in reading.
Drove down long.
Sound it out.
The teacher, John Jensen, has kids of his own. Jacob's in 1st grade. Michael will soon start school. So the man they call Dad must also be their teacher.
What would he do if you thought you could get special treatment because you're the teacher's son?
Well, he'll give us a spot.
Mr. Jensen is much more than father and teacher. At recess time, he's the pitcher. In a school this small, everybody plays. I mean everybody. Bert Sass, Channel 12 News.
In the early morning light, investigators were sifting through the smoldering rubble. The grinding collision happened at about 1:30 this morning on Interstate 10 near Casa Grande. Both vehicles were heading toward Phoenix. Somehow they collided, spinning out of control, and that's when a tractor-trailer rig slammed broadside into the station wagon.
And it would appear, from what witnesses and so far we find, that caused the gas tank eruption. I doubt that we would have fatalities from the collision if it wasn't for the fire, but the witnesses indicate that the fire was rather fast, instantaneous almost. I don't know about an explosion, but very fast and consuming.
Inside the station wagon were 2 adults and 4 young people, all believed to be under the age of 18. All are believed to be from Arizona, possibly from the valley. It's going to be a while, though, before their names are known. The carnage was so bad that an anthropologist from the University of Arizona was called in to help. The 2 people in the big rig, both from New Mexico, were unhurt. Inside the car, pulling the trailer, were 2 grandparents and their 3 grandchildren. The California family faces a different kind of loss.
The 5 people who were in the vehicle pulling the trailer are okay. 1 person will be admitted to the hospital more as observation because of a prior heart problem. However, they have lost everything they've owned. They were in transit from Texas to California, and everything in their world was in these vehicles.
Northbound lanes on Interstate 10 finally opened up shortly before noon today after being closed for nearly 12 hours. The cleanup, though, will never clear away some of the scars from this Arizona freeway tragedy.
I've had some very serious charges made. I think I would be most negligent in my duty to not look into those charges.
The governor has said before he's concerned about the heirs' allegations. Meekum also says this is not just the case of an angry ex-employee.
This is a pretty substantial thing. This isn't just a disgruntled employee. This is something that needs to be looked into. I think Colonel Milstead himself will agree with me that this needs, that I should certainly look into it and get the facts.
But Ayers' supervisor at DPS told reporters today the Ayers case has been fully investigated, and Ayers created his own problems, including illegal business dealings.
It's misconduct. It's conduct that was not approved by the agency in violation of the agency policies.
The DPS employee group also came out today to support DPS Director Milstead and the entire procedure that ended with Ayers' firing.
All of these matters are dealt with in an open and public environment.
Millions for defense, but not 1 cent for tribute. It's an old, often quoted expression, but the man who's supposed to have said it never did. He's Charles Coatsworth Pinckney, one of the signers of the Constitution. Charles Coatsworth Pinckney was born here in Charleston, South Carolina. When he was only 7, his parents took him to study in England, and he graduated from Oxford when he was 23. A year later, he was back in South Carolina practicing law. Pinckney, as a young man, took just 14 months to become a colonel in America's Army. In command at Fort Moultrie, he led the defense of Charleston, South Carolina twice, beating the British the first time, losing the second battle. Pinckney rose to be a brigadier general by the end of the war, shifted into politics when the battle was done, and finally became a delegate to the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. You'll find his signature on the document as one of the key men in our history. George Washington wanted Pinckney to take command of the Army in our new nation, but Pinckney declined and wound up serving as a civilian. On a mission to France, Pinckney found out firsthand about the need to offer bribes overseas. The history books call it the XYZ affair. Pinckney was told he'd have to come up with $250,000 bribe before negotiations with France could begin. His quote, "No, not a sixpence." Charles Coatsworth Pinckney is buried in Charleston. The famed quote is not on his stone. Time and human tendency to misquote have changed it to millions for defense, but not 1 cent for tribute. He never said it, though it's exactly what he meant. Joan Steffend, Charleston, South Carolina.
There's produced a feeling of floating, detachment, even hallucinations, and this produces a state of hyperactivity in many cases.
Despite the high in the short run, Dr. Kunkel says Freon inhalation can be deadly.
There have been numerous cases reported around the country and around the world of particularly young children and adolescents inhaling various volatile solvents and having a fairly immediate heart rhythm problem, which unfortunately in many cases is lethal.
You find Freon in your car or your home. You use it every time you turn on your air conditioning system. Freon is a refrigerant, and here in the desert, it's used a lot. Freon is readily available at Valley Auto Parts stores. Now, some cans come with specific warnings. This one comes with a warning that says excessive inhalation can cause death. And on the back, another warning. It says inhaling the Freon can be extremely dangerous. But this brand only cautions the user to keep it out of the reach of children. And there's a disclaimer on the back of this one that says the manufacturer is not liable for any misuse of the product. There are state laws against huffing, that is, sniffing the vapors from paint, glue, or solvents. But the county attorney's office says it can find no case law that applies directly to Freon. And even if there were about using it the wrong way, there's no law against having it. Household and commercial products rely on consumer warnings and common sense.
And they won't refund our money. They won't pay for a cab ride. They won't compensate us at all. And we're just stuck here, no money. We want to go back home to Kansas City.
Keith DeGreen sells stun guns, and he believes they're a safe, humane way to defend yourself.
Injury. It cannot cause permanent physical injury. What is important is that it is a non-violent self-defense weapon.
Upon contact, the XR5000 keys into the peripheral nervous systems.
DeGreen recently produced an informational tape about stun guns. There are 3 basic claims about what it does to attackers.
The subject experiences instant disorientation, loss of balance, and is rendered dazed and passive.
To check out claims about the stun gun's stopping power, Sergeant Darwin Berry of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office agreed to a field test. However, I don't find myself particularly stunned or dazed. After that, the element of surprise was gone. Several states outlaw these stun guns altogether, and a few restrict them only to police agencies. The Phoenix Police Department considered using these a couple of years ago, but decided against it because they weren't reliable enough. But other Valley law enforcement agencies, including the Sheriff's Office, do use them. Sergeant Berry says the stun gun is effective with the Sheriff's Lake Patrol and in jail transport situations. And he says officers often defuse a difficult situation just by displaying the weapon. But even in the hands of a professional, the stun gun is only one tool, not the ultimate answer.
I would be concerned with citizens having it if they were not able to take part in some sort of training with the unit. Again, our success has been in part because of the training, and it's very comprehensive. So it concerns me that somebody could buy one and just think that nobody can get them.
Lou Ruggiero, Channel 12 News Today.
Nobody at the recall office seems too upset about the decision. In fact, they don't agree with it, and they're ready to ignore it. Now, what Proposition 200 did is to set limits. An individual can donate $500, no more, to a single campaign committee. The question is the recall a campaign committee? Arizona law calls a campaign committee any association organized for the purpose of influencing the result of an election. Recallers say they're trying to force an election, not influence the results of one, at least not yet.
Evan Meekum is the governor. He's not a candidate. When he becomes a candidate, and if we continue to engage, we would then be a campaign committee.
But the Attorney General's opinion essentially says a campaign is a campaign from start to finish.
Is really all of that activity from the very beginning of the political activity through the end of the election.
The law also requires that a campaign committee keep the name and address of anyone who donates anything over $25. Recall leaders say they are doing that, but they don't think it's going to matter. You see, the recall doesn't have to turn over any record of donations until 10 to 15 days before the election if there is a recall election. And that election would go on even if they did find violations. Janine LeCure, Channel 12 News Today.